Hello, Pioneer Nation. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2026, and we are your hosts, Josue
and Day.
Welcome to another episode of Frankford High School Television Student News.
And this week's looking forward. Today is a B-Day, and here is what is happening this week.
Today starts the last week in April, which means two things. School is almost done, and Keystones are starting very soon. We are just 11 school days away from the start of Spring Keystones. Today is another day for our Keystone Scholars. Good luck.
Wednesday will be an AM assembly scheduled for the 10th grade town hall. As always, go to your advisory first and then go down as a class.
This Friday will be a PM assembly schedule for April's Pioneer Day. We will be live streaming it again. Also on Friday, the students' well-being survey will open. Please log into your SIS and complete the survey. Now let's check out the weather for this week.
Hello, I'm Ryan, and I'm your weather reporter for today. Today will be partly cloudy with a high of 68 and a low of 46. Tuesday we'll have PM showers and a high of 63 and a low of 51. Wednesday will rain with a high of 67 and a low of 50. Thursday will be partly cloudy with a high of 69 and a low of 51. And Friday will rain with a high of 64 and a low of 50. Thank you, and I will send it back to Day and Josue.
Welcome back. In general announcements for this school.
The pen relays will be at the end of the month. Ms. Jefferson would like to invite staff and students to watch the live feed of the event, which is provided by the event. We will be sharing that information on our social media account prior to the start of the relays.
The yearly spring Keystone exams are coming next month. They will start the week of May 11th. Are you ready? Make sure to take them seriously because they affect your graduation status.
This week, during Gaming Club, we will be having a virtual meeting with St. Joseph University esports coach. Anyone interested in attendance should come to room 212 after school this Wednesday at 2:45.
As a reminder for our students, our food pantries are available 2 through 3 p.m. every day, except for Fridays. It is located in room 4 on the ground floor near the cafeteria. Up next in our Pioneers Life segments, today we have a special video. Lamir interviewed those that were in attendance for the 115th Pioneer Award. The award winner was Earl B. Lewis. He is a world-renowned book illustrator. He has over 80 books and has been commissioned to do many works, including those about Martin Luther King Jr., musical artist Barack Obama's first White House Seder, and more. Please enjoy.
This has been a long journey. This is a book, as I see it, that it's been 70 years writing. It started with me as a young kid growing up, not in Frankford. My first 5 years was spent in West Philadelphia with my grandparents, Earl and Mary Smith, my grandparents. I'm Little Earl. So the title of this book is called Little Earl. The story starts 1956. And by the time I reached third grade or kindergarten, I came here. Kindergarten is where I came to Frankfurt. This is where the people that know me now knew me from that particular point. Those 5 years were amazing years. Those 5 years with our sisters and brothers. I didn't know my sisters and brothers until I got here to live with them. My sister Sheila, I wanted her to go back to wherever she came from because she upset the apple cart because I was the only child. But by the time I reached, kindergarten was great. Kindergarten was amazing. Nap time, cookies, the whole 9 yards. But by the time third grade came around, was a different ballgame. This is where I realized that something was wrong. The teacher, third grade teacher, I don't remember who it was 1964. She told me to stand up and read aloud into the classroom. I got up, and at that time, I stuttered. And I'm dyslexic. They were not speaking of dyslexia back in the 1950s, in the 60s. So when I stood up to read aloud, my words, as they still do, would flip back and forth or disappear. And so I stood up, imagine reading aloud with a stutter. Couldn't get the words out real good. and my classmates laughed. As a kid, you have to find a way to compensate for that. So I became a behavior problem. What I became was, I was protecting me. It was a way of me avoiding that embarrassment. But at what cost? By the time third grade ended, I didn't make it into the fourth grade. I had to repeat the third grade. And it didn't stop there. By the time I reached the fourth grade, it continued the behavior. My parents were at their wits' end. God bless them. They didn't know what to do. So what they did was they ended up sending me to different psychologists to find out what was going on. One psychologist to the next. To the point where my brothers and sisters, I don't know if you know this or not, my only sister that's here right now, my other brothers and sisters are at work and heaven, and I know they're here in spirit. But they had to go to, my parents sent them to a whole different school. They went to Smedley when I was at Henry to avoid the embarrassment that I caused at that school. So by the time sixth grade came around, I was a complete mess. I didn't like school, I didn't like me, I didn't like books, all those things that I love and adore now, I hated. And it all came to a head, as I said, this story. This story is a difficult story to tell, but I needed to tell this story here at this moment with this award, with all the past honorees, which is amazing. Sixth grade, I will never forget this day. It was a career day. The stage was filled with different graduates from the elementary school. There was a doctor, a fireman, a nurse, an attorney. There were about 10 people up on the stage, and they were always excited to tell us what they did. We were excited to have them. I remember sitting like third row in next to the teacher, because I was that student that always needed to be next to the teacher. Well, once they all presented and finished their presentation, there was an opportunity for each one of us, if we wanted to raise our hands and say what we wanted to become. Little Charlie, I can't remember his name, I remember his name was Charlie. He was the first to raise his hand, and he said he wanted to be a doctor. The doctor on the stage responded to him, asked him did he like science and math and all those things that he enjoyed. He said yes. And we didn't question because he was the president of the student council. So we assumed that he would end up probably becoming a doctor. So I'm sitting there in the audience thinking about what can I say at this time to get the attention that Charlie got. So I thought for a moment, and I raised my hand. But the teacher sitting next to me put my arm down. Wow. They picked someone else? And I thought for a moment, what can I say? I know what I'm going to say, I know what I'm going to say. So I raised my hand again. And she put my arm down again. I got the other one up. And I said that I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't really want to be a lawyer. I only wanted to get the same attention that little Charlie got. Instead, the whole sixth grade class, teachers included, laughed. I hear that laughter right now. I didn't know what to do with that in sixth grade at 10, 11 years old. And all I could do was sit in the audience and look straight ahead, because I was too embarrassed to look on either side. I caught the eyes of the attorney on the stage. He looked at me, caught eyes, and I assumed that he was going to help me, say something smart, intelligent, that was going to get me out of this situation. They just looked out, and they just chose another kid, another answer, another question. Left me there. That can destroy a child. And what I'm talking about is your self-esteem, your self-value, your self-worth. All those important things. I needed help. In this story, I needed a Superman. There's a Superman in this story. My uncle. He realized that I was drowning, and he realized that he needed to do something to protect me, catch me up. So, when we talk about caring in this country, we talk about caring a lot, but you really can't care from a seated position. it's not a spectator sport. It's something that you have to do and put into action. So what he did is he got up one morning on a Saturday. He lived in Cherry Hill, New Jersey with his 3 daughters and his wife. Came across the Tacony Palmyra Bridge, knocked on my door. He said, "Come with me." I didn't know where I was going. All I knew is I was going to be with my uncle for the first time in this car, driving through the streets of Philadelphia. So we drive down Broad Street, and he was a teacher, he was a professor, full professor at Temple University. And we drive up to Ritter Hall, this building, I remember, and it said Ritter Hall, Temple University, so now I knew what my uncle was going to do. He was going to take me to another psychologist, because I figured my parents were at the wit's end, his sister was, didn't know what to do, so he's going to help. So we get to the school, we go up the steps, and I remember this smell. It was the smell of linseed oil and turpentine. I didn't quite understand what it was, but I knew that was basically related to it. It was amazing. And as we walked down the corridors of this big building, he opened these doors, and inside there were kids inside, painting and drawing and playing with clay. Miles Davis was playing in the background. This man took me to Saturday morning art class. And he didn't do it just for one day, for one Saturday. He did it for 6 years straight. Every Saturday he picked me up and he took me to Saturday morning art class. Changed my life. He said that, you want to be an artist, don't you? I said, yeah, more than anything you can imagine. He said, well, then all the artists that I know are very bright. Just because you like to draw is not going to make you an artist. All the people that I know, all the artists that I know are very bright, very astute, very intelligent. And if you want to become an artist, you need to do this. And he hands me this big, thick book. It was a book of Modigliani, an Italian painter that painted women with long necks. I love this artist. And so he said, I want you to read this book and answer. I'm going to ask you the questions at the end of the month. I want you to have the answers. I didn't want to disappoint him. So I struggled reading that book. And at the end of the month, I had the answers. He says, good. Here's Renoir, here's Cezanne, here's Tanner. Before you know it, I was running to the library on my own to get these books. I became a voracious reader because of it. Long story short, I decided I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to the same school that he was teaching, Temple University. I only applied to one school. And when I got in, I graduated with a 3.94 average. Thank you. And so, one of the things that I want to talk about in this book, this ending chapter, is that how much caring is necessary, how much caring is important. I do a lot of speaking all over the country, often all over the world. And I remember I just recently came from a high school. I can't remember, it was in North Carolina. And the auditorium was filled. It was 800 students. The principal was in the front with a bullhorn. And as the students piled in, it was total chaos. I'd never seen anything like it. And he was embarrassed, and he was trying to instruct his student body to control themselves. There's a guest in your school. They didn't have anything to do with it. They just was loud and whatever, and the misconduct was through the roof. And so they all finally sat down. Still was a murmur. You could hear noises. The teachers had no control of their classes. Talk about 800 some odd students. So he looked at me and he said, this is about as good as it's going to get. And thank God he didn't hand me the bullhorn. I took the mic, and as softly as I could speak, I said, I have a question. This was interesting. I never experienced anything quite like this. You guys coming in and this behavior that I just would not expect from this level of education. This is a teacher coming out in me. So I said, I have a question. By a show of hands, how many of you care? I looked out, and there was about 20-some kids raised their hand. I said, wait. You must didn't understand my question. Let me ask it again. Well, let me explain what I mean by caring. Caring for yourself, others, life, so on and so forth, a whole litany of examples. And I said, you all understand? You can see the heads nodding. I said, okay. Again, by a show of hands, how many of you care? About the same 20 went up. I said, whoa, man, it's gotten that bad. I realized, and I didn't know what to do at this point. All I could say was, it's not your fault. It's the fault of our parents, our educators, teachers, so on and so forth. We got so caught up in our own thing, we forgot about you. And so I went in and I spoke to them from the heart. I was in tears as I was speaking to try to get this audience to get to a point where at least they started to think about caring. I spoke for a whole entire hour, probably went over. The principal went like this, letting me know that it's time, your end time is up. So I said, you see your principal over there, he's nodding, he's beckoning me to end this. But before I go, I just have to do it again. I have to ask this question again. By a show of hands, how many of you really care? And so when I looked up through my teared eyes, the auditorium was full with hands. They just needed to know that somebody out there cared. And so this is this chapter coming to a close. And I want to first acknowledge with enormous humility and gratitude this award. It means a lot to me. Langston Hughes spoke of a dream deferred. This is a dream realized, and this is what it feels like. I want to take you further on this journey, but before, I would be remiss not to acknowledge my friends, my family, my sons here, my sister, my friends that are in the audience. I see you all, and my community. I grew up in an amazing community. I travel all over the world, and I noticed that this community stands out. Because there was a time when I remember I could run up and look across run up any street, 5 or 6 blocks away, and there would be a woman on the porch, and she would say, I know your father, Charlie. I'm gonna let him know what you're doing. You know, and that's a community. That does not happen. We take that for granted, but we live in a very special community, you Frankfordians. Thank you for you're all part of this. You're part of this celebration because each one of you, one way or another, added a little something to this individual standing in front of you right now.
Welcome back. Our sports update is as follows. Our softball and baseball teams still remain undefeated this spring with strong outings. Our other spring sports also continue to rack up wins and come out and cheer for our teams as the spring regular season is coming to an end and will start their playoff runs in just 2 more weeks.
On Monday, there is a JV softball game away at Northeast and a boys volleyball match away at Tacony.
On Tuesday, there is a varsity softball game at home versus ENS and a girls lacrosse game at home versus girls high school.
On Wednesday, there is a JV baseball game and a boys varsity lacrosse game, both away at Central High School.
On Thursday, there is a co-ed track meet at Northeast, a varsity softball game at Esperanza, and a girls lacrosse game at Franklintown Charter High School.
And on Friday, there is a boys volleyball game at home versus Masbaum and a varsity baseball game at Carroll High School at 4 p.m.
That is all for now. Thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, I am Josue.
And I'm Dede.
Be on the lookout for more upcoming episodes here at FKDTV. Today starts the last week in April, which means two things. School is almost done and Keystones are starting very soon. We are just 11 school days away from the start of Spring Keystones. Today is another day for our
Spring Keystones. Spring Keystones. Spring Keystones. Spring Keystones.
Yo.
Keystone.
Ready? 5, 4, 3. Good job. You didn't say spring Keystones.
I don't think I did.
He's-
I try to
he's
lock in.
Spring
with just that one.
Keystones.
Keystones. Keystones. That's right.
Spring
Good job.
Keystone.
It's not Keystones.
Stop the show?